America is often portrayed as the land of dreams, the shining skyscrapers of New York, the glamour of Los Angeles, the beaches of Miami. But behind the postcard image lies another side of the United States, one marked by poverty, abandoned neighborhoods, and alarming crime rates. According to FBI data, the U.S. recorded over 380 violent crimes per 100,000 people in 2023. While overall crime rates have been declining compared to the peaks of the 1990s, some cities remain shockingly unsafe. In these places, homicide, armed robbery, and gang violence are part of daily life. In this video, we'll dive into the top 5 most dangerous cities in the USA in 2025. We'll explore not only crime statistics, but also the history, atmosphere, and stories of the residents. These are cities that once flourished, industrial hubs, cultural landmarks, proud communities, but are now fighting for survival against violence and decay.
The first city is St. Louis. St. Louis is famous for its Gateway Arch, a 630-foot monument symbolizing America's expansion westward. Tourists come for the Mississippi River views, baseball games with the Cardinals, and the city's jazz and barbecue culture. But step away from the tourist brochures, and you enter one of the most dangerous cities in America. The numbers that shock. In 2023, St. Louis recorded over 200 homicides with a population of just around 300,000. That's nearly 70 murders per 100,000 residents, one of the highest homicide rates in the world. Compare that to New York City's rate of about 5 per 100,000, or London's at just 1.5. And it's not just murder. St. Louis consistently ranks near the top for aggravated assaults, armed robberies, and shootings. Like many Midwestern cities, St. Louis thrived during the industrial boom of the 20th century. Its factories provided jobs, and its population grew to nearly 850,000 by 1950. But then, factories closed, and jobs disappeared. Middle-class families fled to the suburbs. Entire neighborhoods were left in decline. Today, the city's median household income is far below the national average. Poverty, unemployment, and underfunded schools create conditions where crime flourishes. In August 2024, headlines reported the death of a 14-year-old boy killed in a stray bullet crossfire while walking home from basketball practice. It was a tragedy that echoed countless similar stories. Parents tell their children not to play outside alone, and many families live with constant fear. Yet there is resilience, too. Grassroots groups run youth sports leagues, art programs, and music workshops to give kids alternatives to gang life. For some, jazz and hip-hop become lifelines out of violence. St. Louis has one of the highest numbers of police officers per capita in the U.S., but more cops haven't solved the problem. The issue is trust. Many residents don't report crimes, fearing retaliation. Young people see police as adversaries, not protectors. Officers admit they lack resources to cover every dangerous street. In 2023, city leaders even debated dissolving the local police department and placing it under state control, a sign of just how deep the crisis runs. On weekends, downtown thrives. Food festivals, Cardinals baseball games, tourists lining up to ride to the top of the Gateway Arch. Yet, only a few miles away, neighborhoods resemble a war zone. This contrast makes St. Louis a symbol of America's contradictions. Beauty beside decay. The second city is Detroit. Detroit, once called the Motor City, was the beating heart of America's auto industry.
Ford, Chrysler, and General Motors all built their empires here. In the 1950s, Detroit had nearly 1.8 million residents and was a symbol of prosperity. But the city's dramatic collapse has left scars, both physical and social. And today, Detroit remains one of the most dangerous cities in America. Detroit's decline is tied directly to the fate of the auto industry. When factories began shutting down in the 1970s and 1980s, tens of thousands of jobs vanished. The middle class fled to the suburbs, and what remained in the city were abandoned factories, boarded-up houses, and rising poverty. The ultimate low point came in 2013, when Detroit declared the largest municipal bankruptcy in U.S. history. It was a stunning symbol of how far the city had fallen. Crime by the numbers. Detroit has fought for decades to shake off its reputation as one of America's murder capitals, but crime remains a serious problem. In 2023, Detroit recorded over 260 homicides, with a population of about 620,000. The violent crime rate is more than 5 times the national average. Armed robberies, carjackings, and assaults are part of everyday reality. It's no coincidence that a city filled with abandoned neighborhoods provides fertile ground for crime. In early 2024, a young nurse was shot and killed during a carjacking on her way home from a night shift. The story made national headlines, not because it was unusual, but because it struck a nerve. Detroiters live with the fear that crime can touch anyone, anywhere. For many, even leaving your car parked on the street feels unsafe. Residents joke grimly that the most stolen car in Detroit is the one you own. Detroit's police force faces enormous challenges. Budget cuts have left staffing levels low compared to the city's size. Response times can be long, and trust between communities and officers is fragile. Many neighborhoods rely more on community patrols than official police presence. Some residents report crimes only if they believe action will be taken, which creates massive underreporting. The result is a cycle. Fewer reports make it harder to allocate resources, and criminals operate with a sense of impunity. Detroit is not all despair. Downtown has become a hub for tech startups and new investment. Restaurants are opening, art galleries are popping up, and sports teams bring crowds into the city. The famous Motown Museum keeps alive Detroit's cultural legacy. But step away from the revitalized areas and you see a different Detroit. Memphis, a city known worldwide for its music. The birthplace of blues, the home of Elvis Presley, and the lively Beale Street. To many, it's a cultural treasure. But for its residents, Memphis is also a city where violent crime dominates the headlines. The numbers. In 2023, Memphis recorded more than 14,000 violent crimes. The homicide rate reached over 60 murders per 100,000 residents, among the highest in the nation. Assaults, robberies, and shootings are a daily reality. Memphis consistently ranks in the top 3 most violent cities in the United States. Downtown Memphis paints a picture of neon lights, blues bars, and tourists enjoying live music. But move just a few blocks away, and the mood changes dramatically. Empty lots and run-down houses, streets where gunshots echo at night, parents warning their kids not to play outside. Residents describe the city as 2 Memphises, the one visitors see and the one they endure. Root causes. Like many cities on this list, Memphis struggles with poverty. Nearly 25% of residents live below the poverty line. Unemployment. Opportunities are limited, particularly for young people. Gangs. Rival groups control parts of the city, beating cycles of violence. In September 2022, the kidnapping and murder of Eliza Fletcher, a young teacher out for an early morning jog, shocked the nation. The crime happened near a university campus, supposedly a safe area. The tragedy became a grim symbol of how unpredictable and widespread violence in Memphis can be. The Memphis Police Department has invested heavily in surveillance cameras and neighborhood patrols. Still, residents complain about slow response times and limited effectiveness. Many believe that until the root causes, poverty and lack of opportunity, are addressed, crime will continue. Baltimore, a city with a historic harbor, iconic crab cuisine, and a place etched in pop culture through the TV series The Wire. The show depicted drugs, gangs, and systemic failures, and, disturbingly, it wasn't fiction.
In 2023, Baltimore recorded 335 homicides with a population of about 570,000. That's nearly 58 murders per 100,000 residents. Consistently one of the highest rates in the U.S., violent crime has plagued the city for decades, with little sign of improvement. Baltimore's issues run deep. Drug trafficking has devastated communities since the 1980s. Street gangs exert control over entire neighborhoods. Poverty and segregation create an environment where crime thrives. Baltimore is a city of stark contrasts. The Inner Harbor is beautiful and tourist-friendly, full of restaurants and shops. Yet just a few blocks away you find row houses boarded up, streets riddled with drug deals, and children growing up in fear. It's a city where prosperity and decay live side by side. In 2023, local news reported on a group of teenagers, some as young as 14, running an armed robbery ring near the harbor. That even tourist areas were targeted underscored how pervasive crime has become. Baltimore's police force has long struggled with corruption scandals and strained relations with residents. Many locals don't trust law enforcement, and the lack of cooperation makes it harder to combat gangs and drugs.
Cleveland might not be as famous as New York or Los Angeles, but it has its own legacy. A strong industrial past, the shores of Lake Erie, and the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Yet alongside its cultural pride lies a darker reality of crime and poverty. The numbers. In 2023, Cleveland recorded about 170 homicides. The violent crime rate stands at over 1,500 per 100,000 residents, among the highest in the country. Assaults, armed robberies, and shootings remain common. Like Detroit, Cleveland suffered heavily when factories closed. Jobs disappeared, and many middle-class families left. Entire neighborhoods were left behind, creating pockets of poverty and violence. Cleveland is a city of contradictions. Downtown is home to sports arenas, museums, and the Hall of Fame. Poor neighborhoods just blocks away show boarded-up houses, empty lots, and a constant police presence. The contrast is unsettling for visitors and exhausting for residents. In 2024, Cleveland made headlines when videos surfaced on social media of teenagers attacking random passers-by for sport, recording the assaults and posting them online. The viral clips shocked the nation and highlighted how deeply violence has seeped into daily life. Many Cleveland residents avoid going out after dark. Families teach their children to recognize the sounds of gunfire. In certain neighborhoods, it's not unusual for people to sleep on the floor to avoid stray bullets. These 5 cities, St. Louis, Detroit, Memphis, Baltimore, and Cleveland, each tell a different story. But the themes are the same: poverty, unemployment, segregation, and drugs fuel cycles of violence. Once thriving industrial centers have become symbols of decline. But they are not hopeless. In St. Louis, youth programs and music offer kids a way off the streets. In Detroit, new businesses and art are bringing signs of life. In Memphis, the cultural heartbeat of blues continues to inspire. In Baltimore, communities fight back with resilience. In Cleveland, locals reclaim abandoned spaces for creativity. America is a land of contradictions. For every city of prosperity, there are places battling crime and decay. But within the darkest neighborhoods, there are still people fighting for change. Parents raising children, artists creating beauty, activists demanding justice. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe.